Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we are unpacking one of the absolute most fascinating showdowns in the tech world this year. I'm talking about the massive August 2026 clash between SpaceX AI's brand new Grok 4.6 and OpenAI's absolute heavyweight, GPT-5.6 Sol. If you've been following the AI space lately, you know exactly how wild the release cycle has been this month. It feels like every week brings some new, paradigm-shifting announcement, right? But today, we're going to push right past all that launch day hype and look strictly at the hard data. We're breaking down exactly where these two frontier models tie, where they completely diverge, and most importantly, how you should actually be integrating them into your own workflows right now. All right, let's dive into this.
Section 1. The 2026 AI Tie. So when Grok 4.6 drops on August 12th, you probably saw this exact quote echoing literally everywhere across the industry. Grok 4.6 matches GPT 5.6 Sol on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index while costing roughly 60% less. I mean, on paper, that sounds absolutely game-changing, doesn't it? The dream has always been to have a true frontier model that can go toe-to-toe with OpenAI's highest flagship tier, but for a mere fraction of the operational cost.
And look, to be perfectly fair to the engineering team over at SpaceX AI, that headline claim is mathematically true. Both Grok 4.6 and GPT 5.6 Sol genuinely scored exactly 61 on the Composite Intelligence Index. When you're evaluating overall general intelligence across a huge blend of benchmarks, it is a mathematical dead heat. But, this is exactly where the story gets really, really interesting.
Because that composite score of 61, it's just an average. And like all averages in data science, it completely hides a massive real-world split in underlying capabilities. When you look under the hood and break down the sub-benchmarks, this isn't a tie at all. Grok completely dominates in high-volume knowledge work and complex legal reasoning, pulling way ahead in those specific domains. Meanwhile, GPT 5.6 Sol maintains an absolute, unyielding grip on coding and terminal use. These aren't just two competitive models, they're fundamentally different tools built for entirely different pipelines.
Moving on to Section 2. Let's look at exactly where Grok 4.6 takes the win. Just look at the sheer financial advantage Grok brings to the table for standard queries. If you're operating under 200,000 tokens, Grok is charging just $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens. Now compare that directly to Sol, which sits at $5 for input and a hefty $30 for output. SpaceX AI is really doubling down on the exact same argument they made back in April with Grok 4.3. Frontier-adjacent capabilities simply does not have to bankrupt your engineering team with frontier prices. And the real-world impact of that, it is massive. Grok isn't just a little cheaper at the margins, it's roughly 60% cheaper on input and a staggering 80% cheaper on output generation. Think about what that actually means for your burn rate. If you're running high-volume tasks like generating endless financial reports, drafting massive amounts of marketing copy, or powering nonstop customer service bots, that 80% discount on output tokens fundamentally changes the math on what you can afford to build and deploy at scale. Plus, it's not just cheap, it's surgically efficient for specific workloads. Grok truly shines in high-volume knowledge work. Independent testing shows its agentic turn efficiency is just fantastic. In one benchmark, it completed a super complex agentic task in about 53 turns, which was roughly half the turns Claude Opus 5 needed for that exact same task. That practically brought the real-world cost for that specific autonomous task down to just 84 cents. No way, right? It also pulled a very impressive 15.8% on Harvey's legal agent benchmark. So if your pipeline relies on long-running autonomous agents or digesting massive legal and financial docs day in and day out, Grok 4.6 is an incredibly compelling package. But let's flip the script. Section 3, where GPT 5.6 Sol leads. Because if your workload involves software engineering or massive contextual awareness, the whole picture changes entirely. Grok 4.6 has a context window of 500,000 tokens, which, surprisingly enough, is entirely unchanged from its predecessor, Grok 4.5. GPT 5.6 Sol, on the other hand, boasts a context window of roughly 1.05 million tokens. That's double the capacity. And let's be super clear about why that matters. That extra 500,000 tokens isn't just a luxury. For complex repository analysis, it is a hard requirement. If you're dumping interconnected codebases or huge vector libraries into a single prompt, you simply need that overhead. And beyond just sheer capacity, there's the raw performance. GPT 5.6 Sol ranks number 3 overall in the coding category among all tracked models globally. In direct head-to-head benchmarking on Terminal Bench 3.0, Sol beats Grok by roughly 8.6 points. It's effectively a heavyweight title defense by OpenAI. When it comes to complex reasoning, intricate software engineering, and multi-step command line tasks, OpenAI's flagship model remains the undisputed champion between the two. All right, Section 4, Grok's hidden limitations. Let's unpack the caveats.
So this is where we have to flag a real mismatch between the pitch and the delivery. Even though Space AI explicitly pitched Grok 4.6 for coding and long-running agents, the model actually shows a measurable regression in software engineering-specific evals compared to its competitors. Also, a bunch of those self-reported launch day benchmarks, they haven't been independently replicated yet. There's also zero architecture transparency here, no system card, no parameter count released. And honestly, perhaps most importantly, XAI is moving at a breakneck pace. They are already signaling that a 2.1 trillion parameter Grok 4.7 is arriving in weeks, meaning 4.6 might literally be totally obsolete before you even finish integrating it into your stock.
Oh, and you definitely need to know about this vital financial catch, Grok 4.6's pricing cliff. If you cross 200,000 tokens in a single API request, the rate doubles to $4 for input and $12 for output. But here is the trap. It doesn't just double for the tokens over the 200K limit, it retroactively doubles the rate for the entire request. So if you're regularly running long single requests rather than cleanly batching short ones, you could accidentally blow up your API budget overnight. You've got to factor this cliff into your cost estimates immediately. Which brings us to Section 5, the ultimate verdict. Look, that headline-grabbing tying score of 61 makes it incredibly tempting to try and just declare a single winner. But the practical move for modern engineering workflows in 2026 isn't loyalty to one provider, it's intelligent routing. You shouldn't pick just one. Instead, keep this paradigm in mind. If you have high-volume knowledge work, document processing, or cost-sensitive autonomous agents that require high turn efficiency, route that straight to Grok 4.6. That 80% savings on output generation is way too powerful to ignore. However, if your task is coding first, requires terminal-heavy multi-step reasoning, or desperately needs that massive 1 million token context window, you absolutely must route that query to GPT-5.6 Soul.
It's honestly just an incredible time to be building, as these frontier models push the boundaries of price and performance in completely different, highly specialized directions. The days of relying on a single, monolithic model for absolutely everything in your backend are officially behind us. Moving forward, it's all about putting the exact right intelligence on the exact right task to maximize both performance and your runway. So, looking at your own projects and pipelines right now, which AI are you going to route your next task to? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep exploring.